Hey, what's going on, Science? It has been a week of learning about beta and early access for Godforge, and there is a lot to cover and think through when it comes to that. However, right after the announcement, I had the opportunity to sit down with Dan and talk about it as well as more. So let's check this out. Man, once again, thank you so much for jumping on the channel. Glad to have you today here, just chatting about everything Godforge. And man, what a time to be connecting for the first time too, right?
I
We
got thrown into the bear pit today and then after yesterday. So.
Well, hey, it's okay. First time here, I promise I'll be gentle. When I originally requested, when I originally was reaching out, we just had everything go live on godforge.gg, and I definitely want to come back to kind of that experience for you as a leader, and especially as someone who has such a depth of experience on hellhades.com and everything. But I definitely want to touch on that. But right now, I think kind of like the question, the buzz word of the season today is beta.
Yep.
And technically, I guess we could say early access, but certainly not, this season, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
So let's just like start very first with the concept of beta. And, Simon shared like a timestamp of how late in the evening that y'all were, meeting as a team kind of to discuss what was going on and get those dates firmed up and everything like that. And just like, if you don't mind unpacking a little bit your experience from your side, Dan, of how all of this has really landed with you and what your experience has been in this. And yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I obviously can't really go too much into more detail than what Simon went into in the video, but um I guess the underlying factor is that we knew from day one that there's a lot of eyes on us as a company, and the reception that we had to the alpha was fantastic. um I think one of the main things is over the past few years we've seen a lot of games launch into the space, and you get a lot of these sort of like big spikes in traffic and people very quickly tail off, and that's not the type of game that we're trying to build. From day one when we founded Fateless, and started even talking about the concepts of what Godforge would be. And this is before Godforge even had a name. This is actually before even Fateless had a name. I mean, that in itself is kind of a journey, I guess, how we came onto even calling these things what they're called. But we wanted to create the type of game that we would have wanted to create content for, the type of game that we wanted to play, and we didn't just want to create just another run-of-the-mill game. I guess what we've noticed over the past year is, there's been a lot of learnings as a studio, um, and the team that we've got behind this game now is light years ahead of where it was when we first started. So a lot of the fundamental issues, especially with Simon mentioned about the back end, were put together with a team who they were great, but we were still learning, and we were still learning how these things work. And we thought, actually this would be a suitable solution for us, and we would build it on that framework. And especially during the early days, we were working way more with outsourcers versus the in-house team. And over the past 3 years, we're about to hit 3 years since we launched Fateless now. We brought a lot of our kind of, in fact, all of our dev team in-house now. And we just noticed when we were at the start of this year, we were going through the process of doing load testing, security testing, and things like that. There was a lot of, I wouldn't say fundamental flaws, but there was a lot of kind of loopholes and things that just didn't make sense for a game with the potential to be as big as what it is that we're trying to launch on a platform which was originally hosted on a piece of software called PlayFab, which is it's actually owned by Microsoft, but unfortunately over the past couple of years, Microsoft have actually stopped putting effort into it. They've reduced the team massively behind it.
Yeah.
And it's not even just the stability of it, it's the support that you get from the company behind it, when you need to be able to make changes specifically for your needs.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no support there. And it was actually the back end of last year. We've got some friends who have a studio called Antihero. Um, and they're absolutely fantastic guys. They've worked on worked at Supercell, and now they're working on their own game. I think they did a podcast actually with Simon and Sham, so people can check out more about the stuff that they're building there. But we became good friends with them and started talking to them about kind of the framework as to what they're doing, and they showed us what they're using and what Supercell use, which is a piece of software called Metaplay.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically answered all of the questions that we were struggling with and trying to find solutions and workarounds and things like that with PlayFab. And I'm certainly not a developer, so I
Mm-hmm.
won't go into the real
Right.
nitty gritty. But a lot of the issues that we had with throttling in terms of API requests and things like that, and just the way that that structure worked, when we had the alpha, we were basically trying to band-aid on top of that to find a solution rather than just having an out-the-box solution to do it. Now,
Right.
the problem is what that requires is us to go back to the roots and say, okay, 2 years worth of work doesn't get scrapped, but it needs to get migrated to work on a platform which is completely different.
Right.
And it was a tough decision, because
Mm.
making that decision, puts us back a substantial amount of time. But then once you make it, you may end up with a product that's more stable, has more ability to scale, but you need to test it, and
Mm-hmm.
and everything needs weeks and weeks and weeks of QA testing. We're not one of these mammoth companies with 2,000 employees and things like that, and we just want to make sure that whatever we're releasing to market has the ability to set us up for the best chances of success, and also is respectful for the community that we've built over time, because we just don't want to release a bad product. And Simon, as the CEO and kind of vision head of the company, one of the biggest things that I've always respected so much about him is his attention to detail and commitment to quality. um, and he won't let the team ship something if he wouldn't want to play it himself. So yeah, unfortunately he did have to kind of hold his hands up, and I don't envy being in his position, because although it's a company decision to make this push, at the end of the day, people are they're listening to him. They're very much treating it as, you made this promise to us. You've come to us and made this swap. And yeah, for him to be as open as he was in that video and just kind of break it down and just explain the thought process of, um, you know, look, guys, this is why we're doing it. This is the decision that we've made, and we could rush this thing out to you, but one, we're not going to launch with the features that we want to launch with, which wouldn't be, it goes against everything that we've done from day one in terms of what we wanted to create.
Mm-hmm.
But also there's the risk of the stability side of things and the security side of things. And I mean, Unbound Sage put out a very, very cool breakdown video, which I watched last night, where he kind of gave his take on it. And he mentioned in that if some of the fundamental flaws with the alpha were still present in the live game, it can have a serious impact on our success and things like that. And just from a business perspective, we want people to feel confident that the game that they're playing, the data that they're providing, into their accounts and things like
Mm-hmm.
that, any spending that they choose to do, and bear in mind we're a free to play game, but it does require us to be able to make an income as a company.
Right.
We want people to have confidence in the fact that um, they're spending on an account which is going to be around for a very long time. It's not just kind of a flash in the pan thing. So until we're confident in the product, confident in the software, and confident that we're actually ready to push out a product that we're going to be proud of, we're going to delay.
Mhm.
And yeah, and I think that's why Simon went to the extreme of saying, actually it could be as late as Q4 before we get early access. Which I even praised him for saying that. I was like, dude, you're brave for saying that. Um, because
Extremely.
yeah, because the thing is, we're not sure how long it is gonna push out right now, and we're certainly not
Hmm.
going to give dates. Um, but I think Simon very much got to the point in these meetings where, again, we're in these meetings till 10, 11, 12, 2 in the morning sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, because what he didn't want to do is say how long it was going to be and then have to come back and be like, we're pushing out again, we're pushing out again.
Right.
He very much drew a line in the sand and said, I'm just going to tell the community exactly our thought process here, exactly how long it could take, and we're going to basically under promise, over deliver, and yeah, we'll go from there. But I think the moral of it is that it's been our goal from day one to just have an open line of communication with the community,
Right.
and just tell you guys what's going on. As soon as we know dates, people will know dates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe this is just there was so much information packed into Simon's video earlier this week, or last week, that you can only say so much. And I do give him credit for being as transparent and honest and just as open with kind of y'all situation, what's going on. I mean, that's certainly to be applauded. Y'all have done a great job of being transparent. I am curious though, like in this migration on the back end, like is this very recent? Are y'all halfway through it? How recent from like
Yeah.
this event was that like realization and choice made?
Mhm. So the decision was actually made at the start of the year.
Okay.
And it once you make the decision to actually migrate, you then have to prep everything to migrate and then actually make the
Mhm.
move. And even so much as the guys at Metaplay actually provided us with a load of engineers to support our engineers to help with that. Um,
Mhm.
there's just only so much you can do in terms of guesstimating how long it's going to take.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, I think they just had a few hiccups along the way.
Hmm.
And so it will be entirely migrated, ready for the date that Simon's given for the beta. So we will be on the new backend by that point. But at the same time, our original intention was to have that next phase of people coming in and playing the game this month, or preferably actually the back end of the month, because we're of it's the start of April now. But actually, the original goal was back end of March, and then we thought, well, actually, it will probably be mid-April, but because of that 2-week push, which he put in the slides, it's then put it back to the point where it's actually May. And then we wanted to make sure that we had enough buffer for QA to go in and test things and things like that. So we just tried to pick a safe date, and it tied in very nicely with the 3rd anniversary of the company,
Yeah.
and things like that. Because I understand that obviously there's a lot of pressure from the community, and Simon is literally the voice of the community in our meetings. So he is taking all of that pressure that everybody's putting on him, and he's saying, we need to get this out. We need to get this in front of the players.
Hmm.
However, at the same time, we have to remember that these are real people working behind this game. We, as I said before, we don't have a 2,000-person staff. When we are in crunch getting this ready, and pushing it out, these guys are working weekends, they're working evenings. Igor and John, our tech leads, absolute beasts in terms of just putting in the grind and putting in the hours. And I don't envy their position at times, because a lot of the stuff that in fact, everything that they work on, um, you don't actually visually see it, but you do feel it when you're playing the game, and things like that. So it's tough, because they could be sat, yeah, grinding for weeks and weeks and weeks. And technically, from a visual perspective, nobody sees any difference. But functionality wise, the stuff that they're doing is literally the heart and soul of the game. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a challenge for sure. And I know, so like professionally I work with a developing team as well. And so just like seeing that, and we're actually working on launching a new product right now and dealing with those conversations of like, okay, well, when are we going to go live? What is MVP? What's going to be available? What's going to be our next iteration of it? Everything like that. I mean, completely makes sense on my end. It You never know until you know, right? And like even pointing back to what you're saying and like the back end decision that y'all made early on, you don't know what you don't know. And that's kind of that's kind of one of the things that really hurts when it comes to development, right? Is it's an ever learning process, and it's an ever growing environment as well, right? So like even what you do today isn't going to be what's available to newer companies, a year from
Yeah.
now, maybe even like 6 months from now, especially in this realm of AI.
Yeah, I mean things are moving forward so quickly in the
Mhm.
tech industry. It's actually insane.
Yeah,
It's a great time to be in the industry, but at the same time you're constantly playing catch up, just trying to sort of stay ahead of the curve and actually
yeah.
up to date with things.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is a crazy time to be involved. And Dan, I know that you and I, this is our first time connecting. I think a lot of people in the community may also not be as aware of just like you and your role. So like, if you don't mind, just really briefly, just like kind of like giving everyone like an overview of like what your primary responsibility as one of the leaders of Fateless is.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I guess I'll give like a couple of minutes like background about myself and
Yeah,
kind of
please.
my journey, just as you said, because I think especially early on, I had a lot more front-facing stuff, but with the game and especially with my history with hellhades.com. So,
Hmm.
um, so my background is digital marketing. So I grew up building websites. I built my first website when I think I was about 11 years old. Did it all through my teenage years. Very much uh, any family friend or anyone who had a business, I was building their websites for their companies and things like
Yeah.
that. Straight out of school, went to college, did IT practitioners and networking and things like that, just because I loved playing with computers.
Hmm.
But I really liked the creative side of computing, and I grew up basically connected to the very early ages of the internet. Um, and like I joke about it, but I like to see that I was a part of probably the last generation of what I call like the golden age of the internet, and that's where
Mm.
you nothing was spoon fed to us. Um,
Yeah.
you know, social media, things like that didn't exist. It was all in forums, IRC chats, things like that.
Yeah.
And you really had to work to learn how things functioned. We were coding websites from scratch just with HTML and very basic CSS. These incredibly janky things. When we discovered this wonderful thing called PHP, we started building forums and things like that, and online communities, and just connecting with people around the world who were like-minded to me. Was this amazing thing, because I had this like huge passion for tech and computers, but I live in this tiny little town in the middle of nowhere,
Mm.
where all of my friends are very sort of like athletic and sporty and things like that, and uh, they thought it was weird that oh, this Dan likes to just play computers and like just take them apart and build them and things like that. So
Hmm.
I grew up in this world where it all of these things kind of just made sense to me. So when I was looking for, oh, what do I want to do as a career, I wanted to do things around that passion and just kind of grow and learn more about that space. So went into initially graphic design. Turns out like I'm not that great at graphic design. I'm okay, like I can do it, but I just don't have.
Yeah.
Um, I've probably got way too much ADHD for the patience that you need to be able to actually sit and design some of this incredible work. But I do have a very good eye for what I guess end users like to see, and I have I guess a way of being able to explain that to people and actually put it in front of teams to be able to lead it. So basically went out straight out of college, went to work for a company as graphic designer, but then moved very much into marketing and digital growth. And I've always worked for companies that had very little budget
Mm.
in terms of online spend. So I had to learn organic growth, and that's kind of where I specialized. Um, did that for quite a few years, ended up working for offshore oil and military company, which was a little bit different to what I'm doing now.
Yeah, a
For
little bit.
for 5 years, working on all sorts of sort of marketing campaigns, marketing products, and things like that. And then just decided that I wanted to do something a little bit more creative. When you're in this space and you're limited to just working on one product and one industry, it can become quite stale, especially when, as I said, I was working on offshore oil products and stuff like that. It's not that interesting to create marketing stuff for. So went to work for a web development agency where I was head of digital marketing, looked after campaigns for like Hilton hotels and people like that, and absolutely loved working there. But the whole time I've also been an absolutely avid gamer. So played World of Warcraft fairly competitively, really since the closed beta of the game, and always loved playing that. And during COVID lockdown, actually the first lockdown in COVID, my entire team got put on furlough, but I didn't. So I was working from home, basically looking after our clients, but nobody was spending because we were mainly in hospitality. First thing that got cut was marketing budget around hospitality because nobody could go out and actually do things. So I was sat at my table, with my laptop, and I was like, well, I'm going to pick up a game and just see if there's something that I can keep me busy. And if the phone rings, if I get an email, I'm here to help the customers out. But at the same time, I've got nothing else to be doing. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I used to play Summoner's War for a very long time, actually, ironically, at the oil and military packaging company that I was working for. Everybody in the office played Summoner's War, so we had like a clan together and things like that. So
Nice.
I was like, oh, I'll pick Summoner's War up again, and
Mm.
I couldn't remember the login details for my account. And when
Mm.
I opened the App Store, I saw this ad for this game called Raid Shadow Legends that popped up, and I was like, all right, it looks like Summoner's War, but it's actually more my vibe with the
Hmm.
the more dark fantasy style graphics, less cartoony. I'll give it a
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And naturally, the first thing that I did, because I kind of grew up on the internet and consuming content, was go and find a content creator. Let's find out how to get the best possible start. And I stumbled across this guy who had just made the transition to go full time on YouTube, had about 40,000 subscribers, I think, and he'd just gone on his first ever live stream on Twitch, and it was an absolute mess. His chat was going buck wild, and he just said in the chat, he's like, would anybody like to mod and just help like kind of sort things out in the chat? And yeah, I replied to him. I was just like, I don't mind being a mod. I'm sat here. I can help you out with it. And yeah, it turns out that individual was Simon, or Hell Hades, and we got talking. Ended up helping out with an event that the guys were doing for this competition, which eventually ended up being our free to play competition at hellhades.com, where built a website, which at the time the website was called Raid Focus, and it was just basically had the reports of the competition and what was going on with it. And through that process, Simon and I just became better friends. We kind of I started editing videos for him, started helping him out with a lot of his kind of branding, because one thing that I noticed from day one is that he has this incredible way to connect with people. He's incredibly personable, but he's just open and honest, and it's probably his number one positive trait, and also probably his biggest flaw at the same time, because he is just genuinely open and honest, and just wants to create cool stuff. I've also never met somebody with the same work ethic as he has. He is such a hard worker. I literally can't praise him enough, and I won't go into it too much, but he was just an incredible person to work around. So I said to him, you have the potential to build a massive brand around you rather than just focusing on you as a creator. Why don't we start a website? Why don't we start, building what at the time would then become HH Gaming, rather than just him as an individual creator. And initially, actually, he told me that he didn't see the value in launching a website, um, which was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Different time for sure.
yeah, absolutely. And it took me a couple of months to convince him to do it, but eventually we decided, right, okay, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it properly. And this is exactly ties back to what I was previously saying with Simon, and the reason that we pushed back the access to playing the game is if we're going to do something, we're going to do it properly.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just, oh, let's launch a website that's going to have videos and merch and things like that on. It's no, let's create a tool, let's create a resource, which is going to genuinely benefit the community and bring something to the party. So
Yeah.
we started working on hellhades.com in I think it was September 2020. Launched the site in December 2020. It was 1st of December 2020. In true Simon fashion, when I asked if we could soft launch the website, he put a video out with the thumbnail and title that just said free stuff across it. And proceeded for the next 3 days to literally set fire to my servers. Um, so yeah, that was a hell of an experience. We were initially on a hosting plan, which I think was costing like $10 a month,
Mm.
um, and the whole website just fell over
Yeah.
instantly.
Yeah.
But again, a testament to Simon, because at the time we hadn't made a penny from doing this. He was solely funding the launch of the product, out of his own pocket. He was just like, double the servers, double the servers, double the servers. So I don't care what the cost is, just get the product online, get it smooth, and make sure that the user experience is perfect. So we took this. I say a risk. It doesn't really feel like a risk now, but back then, we didn't have a business model around this at all. So, Simon was spending hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, probably during the first month, of just plowing into, let's get this experience as perfect as we can possibly make it. And yeah, I guess in terms of hellhades.com, the rest is fairly history from there, because we got 1 million page views in our first month. At that point, I was in a I think a lot of the Hell Hades community know my story then, but I will go into it just very quickly. And it's always the awkward one, so I apologize. But at the time, my girlfriend and mother of my kids had been diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor, and I was in a position where we were told that she basically had 6 months left, and I either had the option of continuing to work, look after 2 kids, look after her, and attempt to make it work when a time came that I would be a single parent, or I could take this leap of faith with Simon, and we just go all in and try and make a business work that could support me, support my kids, and things like that. So I spoke to Simon. I sat down with him, and he said to me that what we would do is we worked out what my annual salary was. We put that aside, and he said, worst case scenario, we've got that to fall back on, and let's just take the risk and build this into a business.
Mm.
Yeah, we did. I guess the phrase of was it burn the boats. So you got no option but to make a success of it. And
Yeah.
I handed in my notice at my work, and we were like, hellhades.com has no choice, it has to succeed. And over the next 6 months, unfortunately, my girlfriend's health rapidly went downhill, and she did pass away. but in the time when she was getting very, very ill, I was spending basically all of the time that she was resting and the kids were at school. I was doing nothing but building hellhades.com. So a lot of the core of that site was actually built on my laptop whilst I was sat in a hospital, and things. But it just gave me that drive to just make the most out of the opportunity that we had in front of us.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we over the first year that we launched the website, we were the fastest growing gaming brand in the entire world. Mr. Beast was number 2, so that's a nice little claim to fame.
Wow. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we got an award from a company called SimilarWeb that basically rank websites every year. And they track growth and things like that. So that's actually the one and only award that hellhades.com has. So we are an award-winning website from that first year.
There you go.
But it's a testament to what we built, but also it's a testament to the community, because when Nina did pass away, the community was so invested. Simon did a charity event and they raised a load of money, more than I could possibly have ever even thought was an option. Literally covered the funeral costs, everything, and then every penny that was actually left over after that, I put into a fund for my children, basically. So when they're 18, they've got a nice little kicker, literally from this community.
Mm.
And at that point, my priorities changed from building a business and a brand around Simon to building amazing experiences and tools to give thanks for the people that allowed me to be where I was.
Mm.
And that's why we built things like the raid optimizer. We built things, we partnered with Jeremy, who's the guy that actually built the optimizer, but we built the whole user experience around it. We created tools, guides, we brought people on to help, real experts in the industry for that space, and just kind of established ourselves as the go-to-market platform for games who are trying to compete with Raid. And after we've been running the company for 2 or 3 years or so, the community increasingly started to ask, you guys make all these tools, guides for other people's games. Why don't you just make your own?
Yep.
Because it's easy to make a game, right?
Easy. Easy. Just slap some AI together. It's fine.
Yeah, and Simon and I, as the business has become more financially stable, we started to toy around with the ideas of, actually, is this possible? And I remember the meeting very specifically because YST had just come on HH Gaming, and he started covering our champion pages and things like that for us. And he said, like, oh, I saw a community message saying, why don't you guys actually make your own game? And I think Simon said to me, he goes, why don't we just make our own game? And it kind of changed from being this like joke between us to actually, what would it take to build one of these games from scratch?
Yeah.
And a year or so before, we'd met Sham through his game Incarnate. And unfortunately, he lost the funding for that game because it was involved in the crypto space, and when the crypto market went through the floor, so did his funding. So he was in limbo a little bit, and he wasn't able to continue with that project. And he'd reached out to us about something completely different on hellhades.com. And Simon and I kind of had a chat, and we were like, if we're going to do this, there's nobody else in the world that we would want to do it with except Sham.
Mm.
And we reached out to him and we pitched him this crazy idea, and in true Sham fashion, he literally just said absolutely yes on the spot. And we started this journey of building I guess this wild company.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess relating back to your original question of kind of what it is that I do for Fateless and where it is that my position is. So although I'm very heavily involved in the actual running of the business and running of the day-to-day things that go on here, I oversee what will become our publishing arm to the
Mhm.
company. So everything that you guys see externally runs through my team. So the website, the even so much as the alpha. I'm sure some of you guys have seen like the alpha coins, which I painstakingly packed in my mum's garage,
Oh yeah,
and shipped out.
right there.
Awesome, good stuff.
I
See,
can't even take it out. It just looks so pretty. I know you worked so hard on it, you know?
yeah, fresh out of the garage. So
Yeah, yeah.
um yeah, so my goal is I guess in two parts with this, is that number one is I want to make sure as many eyes as possible can be in front of Fateless. um I want to make sure that the community has the best possible product um that we can put in front of them. And then at the same time, my mission for my role at Godforge is to allow as many content creators as possible to earn a full-time income from playing our game and creating content on our game. Um, so I guess that's my role.
Well, that's a sounds like a nice mission from the seat that I sit in.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So and I mean we can touch on I apologize because I've like spoken for like half an hour straight here, but
Hey,
um
people aren't here to listen to me, man. So it's all good. It's all good.
so the content creators,
Hmm.
obviously they are the lifeblood of
Yeah.
any game in this space. And as a content creator yourself, I would, I've said it from day one, I would love to be in a position. It would probably be my proudest moment in my entire life if somebody was able to repeat what it is that we did at hellhades.com
Yeah.
for our game. Um, and it's not it the journey to go from starting a company, founding a company, and starting creating content to, being able to build a game studio and things like that. It came with a lot of pitfalls. Um, Polarium, although they try to help us out and work with us now, back in the early days, they've notoriously never really worked with people who actually support the game. They've only worked with external audiences, um, whereas I wanted to make sure that we do the polar opposite of that. So obviously we've got the foundations at the moment of this core content creator group, but something that you guys might not be aware of yet, but it's actually something that Susie, I, and the team are working on, which I'm hoping, content drop here. I'm hoping to have it out by the beta. It may be just slightly afterwards. Is an entire platform specifically to support content creators. Um, in the back end of our website, and how it will actually work, or how I envision it working, is a gamification of content creation. So what you will effectively do is, as a content creator, say you're somebody who's playing the game and you've always wanted to be a content creator, you've always wanted to kind of share your thoughts and build an audience around it. We're not going to wait for you to build an audience and then try and piggyback off that audience. We want to build an audience for you, and we want to get you in front of people. So you can sign up to our content creator program, you can become a part of our content creator community. In the back end, there's going to be challenges that you can do. These challenges may be something to do with making a video on certain parts of the game, which will earn you rewards, or it may be we're going to put a lesson together for how to make great thumbnails, how titles work, how SEO works, how meta descriptions and things like that work for websites. Things that are going to help you increase the quality of content that you're able to put out, but as well as that, increase your potential for earning an income at the same time. Because all of you, spend your time putting content out on YouTube or Twitch or whatever platform it is that you're creating, websites in general. but it's hard work to get it to the point where you can actually even break even on the cost of the time that you're putting into it, the equipment and things like that. I want to work with partners to be able to with this gamification, you can earn points and you can trade those points in for a webcam, a mic, a green screen, things like that to really level up your content. And as well as that, obviously there will be um, ad campaigns and things like that that we'll do. When we want to get the word out to the wider community, we want our content creators to be our biggest voice. We want you guys to be helping us support the game. So so that's just I guess a very short taste of the thing that I'm working on behind the scenes at the moment, which is my number one priority, to basically fill the gap of all the little pitfalls that we had to learn along the way, to help you guys build content. And I guess the best part about that is, one, it benefits us because it amplifies the quality of content which is being produced for our game and the amount of content, hopefully. But from you guys, you own your platform. That is your income, that is your community, that is your voice. You can take that with you. That we have no like ownership or anything like that. I just want to help you be in the position that we're in, and then with that, I want you to choose to create content on Godforge because it's a great game, because it's got a great community, and because it's got a company behind it that genuinely cares about you as a creator and sees the value that you bring to the table by supporting our audience and our community.
Wow. Yeah, that's certainly different. That sounds exciting. Thank you for sharing that, Dan. That's
That's cool.
man,
I'll,
I don't even know
to
what to
back
think
it
about
up,
that.
I'll send you a couple of screenshots as well that you can drop to the community.
Oh, heck yeah,
Um,
man. That would be
yeah,
awesome.
that's a that's a leak, but
Uh,
yeah, Simon's not here. It's
Yeah,
fine.
it's like you say, this is your realm, right?
Yeah.
This is where you live, and this is your domain. It really does go to show, though. I mean, it mirrors exactly what you guys as Fateless really tried to do, which is be transparent, be there for the community. And you're right. Like, content creators succeeding means that y'all succeed. But by being able to like give back to that scene to further like boost and help them, I mean, that's huge. And you're right. It's a thing that companies don't really do. So it
Mhm.
does set y'all apart. Last but not least, I would love to know, especially from, as you are one of the core people behind the website and everything like that, whose idea was Lord Verko?
Do you know that Lord Verko is so cool. The thing is, so
If you
many
mean
people.
busted, yeah, which
Uh, so
uh,
it's so funny. So for anyone who doesn't know Lord Verko or even Gary in general, so
mhm,
Gary was our first investor in Fateless.
yep,
He comes from the community. He is, he's been extremely successful in his own life, um, but he is so passionate about everything that he does. I mean, the guy is building the biggest Warhammer museum in the world in Vegas right now. We're going to be hosting the event in Vegas at Verko's Vault, which is there. And I think it was Rachel that suggested, and I may be wrong on that, but I think Rachel gets credit for it, because I saw it and I was just like, this is so good. Yeah, so Lord Verko is he is the real life legend
there you go.
that is Gary.
There you go. And I'll put up screenshots for anybody who missed it on April Fool's Day. But just to confirm, because I already checked this morning, he's off the site.
I want him back. I'm putting a petition internally.
I don't know,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Saf might have a problem with that kit.
He can go through balancing. It's fine, but yeah. Gary is, and if anybody isn't aware, like have a look on our website. Like Gary in himself is just this larger than life character. People who we meet at and industry events, they're like, oh, like who's the wizard, because yeah, Gary is literally referred to by hundreds of people in the industry as the wizard behind Fateless. But
That's
he's
cool.
our #1 supporter. He's also our sounding board for this incredible business mind that has allowed us to get to where we are. So he is, as I said, like the living legend. And I can't speak more fondly of the guy, because yeah, he's incredible, and I'm
That's
glad
awesome.
that they could share his character. For even if it was for April Fools, I'm petitioning to get it back. Um, maybe with
Well,
some adjustments, but we'll let Paul
maybe
do a pass on that. So uh,
extending buffs on an A1, that yeah,
yeah,
that's a special kind of busted. But man, Dan, thank you so much for your time today. Really
yeah,
appreciate just hearing more about you, sharing a little bit about life and experience and all that you're bringing to Fateless and the Godforge team. Man, there is so much that's going to be going on between now and beta, so stay tuned, make sure and hit that subscribe button down below, and we will see you in the next one.